Hey folks, today I'm doing a little bit of crankbait modification. I'm going to show you, this is my favorite crankbait. At some point I purchased, and this is a discontinued model, this live target crayfish crankbait. At some point I purchased over $700 of just this model in just this color. And it was once I knew that they were going to discontinue it, or had already discontinued it. I contacted the manufacturer and said, how many you got left? And they quickly realized, yeah, you're the one who's been sponging up all of the different remaining stock from their suppliers. There's always a lot of discussion about, the fishermen have about match the hatch, and certainly that looks, the design of this looks a lot like the crayfish that we have on the Susquehanna River, where I fish most of the time. But really, to match the hatch, there's really, you got to break it down to at least two things. It's not as simple as, hey, does this look like a crustacean that lives in the Susquehanna River? It's much more important that you match the motion. So how this crankbait moves as it deflects, that square bill bouncing off the rocks, and that looking a lot like the what those critters do at the bottom of the river when they're fleeing a big Susquehanna smallmouth. So match the motion. But the other part that I'm going to tell you, you have to perfect the profile. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'll talk a little bit about profile in this jig that I've been using, and that I'm using the Z-Man Bat Wings 2.75 inch. I have video on my manufacture of this particular finesse jig, and it is lights out. It really does, at least for the cold water period. Perfect the profile. Yeah, we got the right crayfish claws there, and they move. But the matching the motion, all of this subtle round rubber, these little pieces here just quivering in in the current that's down there. Everything about this works. So it is a good job of match the hatch by really match the motion, which is not moving, not going anywhere, but constantly in motion. And then perfect the profile. What are we missing here? We're missing claws. I mean, it puts little, there's these little things here, but those aren't claws. And right now, we have not perfected the profile. So using the same materials that I used to tie this jig, you got a pair of scissors, we got the bobbin and the thread to tie on this guy right here, the skirt layer. And if you're not doing this, it's a couple bucks to get these items so that you can modify your crankbaits, tie your own jigs, whatever it is you want to perfect. It's pretty important. I'm going to jump in and I'll just tell you, I'm putting this skirt on that hook. And what that's going to do, as it's moving, it's going to kind of tuck up this way, and right in this space is where the claws, if you really look at a crayfish scooting in water, and I've done a lot of videography, a lot of underwater, just go down there with a scuba mask and a snorkel in the summer and see what their profile is. This is not a perfect profile. This crankbait has won me a lot of money in tournaments, but it's not perfect. Let's perfect it. So if you wanted to, you could absolutely take this, take the split ring off and make it easier on yourself. I'm going to do, I'm going to shortcut it, which is sort of tricky, but make it easier on yourself. Take the, take the hook off, or just get a fresh pack of hooks, you know, and just tie directly to it and then swap them out. It is tricky, but it absolutely is worth doing. I was so close to not doing that. Whatever, I got it past it. Alright, almost done. We'll get some of that fly head cement on there. We're gonna trim our thread here. I'm going to cut the end of this skirt tab off where it's all kind of one thing, you know, all solid, and that opens up, just opens it up so it spreads out. And I'm only using one skirt tab, so it's a pretty low cost thing to do. I think this is like a barbed wire green pumpkin one that I got. I forget where I got it. Barlow's maybe? Lure Parts Online? I can't remember. So I'm cutting the long loop, and the direction that I tied it was sort of, you know, with the top of the skirt layer, and this is only half of one. This is actually, I use half of one to make this jig, but I use the full one for the for the crankbait, and I tie with the tab, you know, on the bend of the hook, and then the long end going down, and then it loops back with the tab right here at the bend in the hook, and then the long end down. Because what that ends up doing, and I got a few more little loops there to get rid of. So we cut those, and really it creates this kind of poof of skirt material, and that will tuck up underneath, and as this wobbles, it's going to have this area here. It's going to be right where the claws are, because really, as a crayfish is fleeing, that's where its claws are. They're, say its main body is where my head is, and it's tucked up underneath, and it kind of rides like this underneath, you know, and behind it like this. Its tail is flipping, its carapace is going whoosh, its tail is moving it in that direction, and its claws are underneath, and if it's facing that way, it's, well, in the direction it's facing, even though it's moving that way, and it does kind of this. And that's exactly what this skirt is going to do. It's going to give it that, it's going to perfect the profile by putting the claws back right in the space that it should be. So we have a snowstorm coming in this afternoon. We're going to get ice and freezing rain and probably 6 inches of snow, but right now it's clear. Everything would be frozen over, but we got a couple spring influence creeks here on the property, and I think I can find some open water. I'm gonna tie this on, take it out there. Let's show you what it looks like underwater. All right, I'm walking out across that field to hopefully find some open water, even though this ground is frozen solid. I did want to show you something on the way. You ever want to find some spring influenced water. Snow on the ground there. What is that? That is bright green vegetation. That's how you find it. It's one way you find it. The other way you find spring influenced water is by looking for birds. And we do have geese, and we had a bunch of grackles that we just spooked off there. They're going to stay near the open water. Birds will always tell you, even if it's, you know, and it's been into the single digits and negatives here the last couple nights, and everything is crunchy, hard, frozen. We're going to find some open water here, and it's because of springs. Alright, let's show you what this crankbait looks like. There it is. I'm going to show you without putting it underwater, and then I'll show you putting the camera underwater. You can kind of see it kind of scooting along. Maybe you can't. Let me try following it underwater. That's what it does. I mean, that's your, you know, the skirt representing the crayfish claws under and sort of behind it. And you can do different levels of the profile. You can do it thinner than that if you like, or keep it thick. Let's look at it one more time.